All right, let me get this set up here. The live stream over here. Kind of need one more. I'm just grabbing a thick book to use here to set the microphone up on. There we go. So it's a little bit closer to me. All right. That should do it. Let me know if there are any issues with my audio. I should be good. I don't like how close up this camera is. Okay. How are you all doing? Let me make sure here. Okay. Hi, Erica, you joining me? My bestie, my sister from another mother. I can't believe you joined. Thank you. It is a messy hair kind of day, so it's just thrown up like this. I have my new Cinderella eyeshadow on. I found it last week, and Hannah was looking at my eyes yesterday in church, and she said, "Mommy, you have such pretty eye makeup," because it's sparkly. See, we all could use a little bit of sparkle in our lives, so I like the sparkles. And of course, the Christmas, bow earrings. So very sparkly today. All right, so it is good. We are live. The sound is on. I get to see my bestie in a week and a half or 2 weeks. 2 weeks from today. Super excited. I have lots of holiday traveling plans. So getting it all wrapped up this week with lessons and then the next 2 weeks off. And it's going to be full of fun and joy. So I'm very excited about that. All right. So today I was specifically asked for this topic, and we've all had days like this where we feel like failures. And we all have them. We all have these days. Doesn't matter if you're a almost 44-year-old mom. It doesn't matter if you're a 20-year-old mom. We all have days where we feel like failures, days where everything that could go wrong goes wrong. The babies are crying. Someone has a cough. We burn dinner. We don't even get the chance to change out of our pajamas. We have a migraine, and that's also the day our washing machine breaks down and we have to call the repair guy. It's the day someone shows up at our door and their eyes widen as they take in the chaos, especially if they know we're a homeschooling mom. It's humbling. And when we go to bed at night, we feel like an utter and complete failure. We can't seem to get out of the rut that we are in, and we have zero motivation. How do we pull ourselves out of this rut? And what are some tips for the low times of motherhood? And this is all stuff I wish someone would have told me as a 20-year-old with little kids. I did have role models, some women like Jane Kane, my mother-in-law, my mom, etc., who definitely gave me words of wisdom. But overall, I was kind of left to figure this stuff out for myself. So many nights ended in tears and stress and chaos because I was beating myself up. So hopefully I can help you today to go a little bit easier on yourself and give you some tips to help out when you have those really, really low days come. So one quote that I have read and enjoyed was this: "You are creating your child's childhood, and they are creating your journey into motherhood." We weren't meant to live in constant stress and anguish, constantly in flight or fight mode. It's why so many of us have adrenal fatigue by the time that we're in our 30s and we just feel like we're collapsing and, our health is doing terrible. So let's go over some tips to help us when we have those low days, which we all do. Today has actually not been a very hot day for me. I feel like Mondays for ministry families are very tough. And we used to, in the past, when we were at Lighthouse, we actually took Mondays off. Like every week, we would take Mondays off because and we needed a day of rest. Saturdays are not our days of rest in ministry most often. Sundays are definitely not our day of rest. Most of us as ministry moms, we're at church all day. There's soul winning, there's cooking, there's cleanup, there's corralling kids, there's music ministries that we're involved in. So it's definitely not restful by any means. So I have found that Mondays overall are very tough for my family, for my kids. There's a lot more tears, Hi, Karina. Oh, you joined me. I have like two people that I care for very much in the live chat that are joining me right now. So good to see both of you. So yes, today, Kelly was crying over everything. It's really hard to get them back into school after having 2 days off of school. So, Rachel, yes, I feel you. And Kelly has been crying for everything. And she's almost 6. So, she doesn't, okay, Kelly. So, Rachel, Kelly's a little bit like Raylan. She, from the time she was born, she was a crier. Cried a lot. And Abby, too. Those have been my 2 biggest criers out of all of my kids. And they let their emotions out in the form of tears. If they're upset, they cry. If they're overwhelmed, they cry. If they're tired, they cry. If they're happy, they cry. You know, not really Kelly, but they cry about everything. I'm not a crier. So I have a hard time relating to that. And so for me, it's just aggravating. Like, why are you crying? Like, for me, I cry when really, really bad things happen in my life. Like when someone close to me dies. That's literally when I cry. So I don't understand tears just for, in my mind, no reason, because they have to do school or because they can't find their shoe. Or for today, it was Kelly woke me up in the middle of the night. Oh my goodness. And it feels like a dream. Do you ever have that where your kids wake you up and then in the morning you're thinking, did this really happen or was this a dream? That was Kelly. She woke me up in the middle of the night all excited because her tooth fell out. She had a wiggly tooth on the bottom and it fell out. And I was really out of it because it was like 3 or 4 in the morning. And I was like, okay, Kelly, just put it down, like put it on the dresser and go to bed. And so she did. And then in the morning, she's like, Mom, my tooth fell out. And I was like, okay, so that was real. That actually did happen. And I was like, why did your tooth fall out in the middle of the night? And she said, because I was awake and I was wiggling it. So for some reason, Kelly was awake at 3 or 4 in the morning, wiggling her tooth, and it fell out. And she was all excited and came and told me. So now the tooth fairy has to come tonight. So I need to remember that the tooth fairy needs to be on duty tonight because I have forgotten before and I had to slip the dollar under something in her bed and be like, oh no, look, the tooth fairy just stuck it under here. That was a mom fail right there. So I have to remember that tonight. But yeah, so the day just started off weird because of that, because her sleep cycle was messed up. And then she was crying for everything. And finally, I'm just like, I'm going to heed my own advice. And I left a little early to come here so I could sit over there in the quiet of that room and just do my outline. So I did my outline for today. I made the thumbnail for today. And I'm like, when I go home, I'll be rejuvenated and ready to go with the tears, deal with the tears. So Mondays are tough. But for me, these are some things I try to remember. What do we want our kids to remember? You know, memory starts around 3 or 4. So do you want them to remember a stressed out mom or a calm, joyful mom? And I don't say this as a way of putting more guilt on because this is about tips for helping out when we feel this way, right? So, but this is something that I definitely keep in my mind, just to help keep me in check, right? So I don't want to be stressed out all the time. I don't want to be angry all the time. I don't want my kids when they think of me, they think of an angry mother. I don't want that. So just remember that as the mom, we create the mood in the home and give yourself grace because we do mess up. Okay. So just be ready to do a 180 with your mood. Some people like my bestie Erica, who said something like, I've always been in awe of her ability to just like, even if she's dealing with a migraine or she's having a tough day, she's very good at just not letting that come out like in her voice, not letting that come out. And I've always like, we are opposite in that area because I tend to wear my feelings and all my emotions on my face, on my sleeve. And that comes out in the form of being a little more rough with my voice versus her who is always very calm and gentle. And I've always admired her ability to do that. And so when it comes to being stressed out or stress going on, I've tried to emulate her in my own life so that my kids will see, first of all, they learn how to react to stress or chaos based off how we react to stress or chaos. So I want them to learn how to, you know, think on their feet, make tough decisions under duress, basically under stress, under chaos without falling completely to pieces. So, but definitely that being said, give yourself grace because we do mess up. Realize when you're in a really bad mood and think, okay, I got to turn this day around. Like the kids are picking up on my anger. The kids are picking up on my stress and I need to do a 180. Give yourself a pep talk. I've done this often. I've gone in my room and I've been like, okay, Cassandra, the rest of the day can be really bad or the rest of the day can be better, and it's up to you to fix it. It's up to you to fix your mood. It's up to you to fix your attitude. Take a moment if you need to. Oftentimes, I will put the one throwing the fit in the room by herself where she'll be fine, she'll be safe, and I will go into another room just to calm down because I don't want to correct out of anger. I don't want to correct out of stress. I don't want to correct out of just you know, being overwhelmed. So I will put them um on their bed or in their room. This really works well for Hannah for some reason. Hannah has very, very big emotions, and we call it letting her intrusive thoughts take over. And we're like, oh boy, Hannah's having a day where she's letting her intrusive thoughts take over. And so she has very, very big feelings. Kelly's just come out in the form of tears. Hannah comes out in the form of letting her intrusive thoughts take over. The other day, we have no idea why, she got a hold of scissors and she cut Abby's blanket. And then she went into the living room and she was cutting open the presents that I had wrapped. You should see our presents right now, guys. I don't know. This is just a McMurtry thing this year. I don't even know why I wrapped them and put them out there. I think next year I'm going to have to wrap them and put them somewhere else and then bring them out Christmas Eve. Hopefully Hannah will be out of her intrusive thought phase though. Then I think part of it has to do with the cats too. I think they have ripped open some with their claws, and then Hannah sees that they're already a little open and she takes it further. So she went into the living room with the scissors and started cutting open presents. So we had to stop that. I had to retape it. It literally looks like all of our presents, Chucky went after them, and then I've just like patched them up, and because I'm not rewrapping the whole thing. I hate wrapping presents. So I've just kind of patched it up with tape. So it's like shredded up presents taped back together. It looks really bad. Do not come to my house looking for a Hallmark Christmas presentation because there is none in my house. That is just the season we are at. So yeah, she'll let her intrusive thoughts come out. She'll scratch, or she went through a biting phase, different things like that. So I have found with her, it's a lot better to let her kind of work through some anger in a safe place. So I will put her in a room before I go in there to talk to her and correct her. But yeah, when mama ain't happy, ain't no one happy. When mama's stressed out, usually the rest of the house is stressed out. When mama's angry, the rest of the house is angry. When mama's peaceful, that lends a sort of peaceful feeling over the entire house. So all that being said, if something's not working in your life, you need to fix it. I'm a fixer. I could see Hannah doing that too. Amanda said, this is perfect right now. Micaiah just had a 45-minute meltdown and scratched his own face. Hannah's almost out of the phase of the severe meltdowns, but Hannah and Micaiah are a lot alike, both very strong-willed, and they have complete meltdowns. And I think a lot of it is not being able to communicate their feelings. Because like I said, Micaiah has big feelings and Hannah has big feelings. And when you're two and you're not able to get that across with words, you've got to remember, mamas, it's not necessarily them just being defiant and like trying to rule the roost and take over. And I'm going to show that mom. They're two. They don't know how to communicate these huge feelings, and it comes out in the form of a fit. Okay. So you're not failing. First of all, that's a word of encouragement. You are not failing when your kids are throwing fits. It is not a result of your parenting. Most of the time, they're two. People think that 2-year-olds are supposed to act like 20-year-olds and have all their emotions in check and their whole personality in check. They're two. They've been alive for 2 years. They have big feelings and they don't know how to communicate those feelings. When they get to about 3, 4, and 5, for my kids, that's when they kind of come to an end because they're able to process those through communication, through talking. So if your 2 or 3-year-old is throwing a fit, it is not because you're a horrible parent. It's called growing up. It's called trying to process all of these changes that are happening and not knowing how to get it across to your parents. Okay. And I could see Hannah doing something like that with the scratching. That's one of her forms of letting her thoughts win right now, is scratching. So I try to keep her nails very short. But then I found if her nails are very short, she reverts back to biting. It's a sensory thing, obviously. Well, if she's 16 and she's still biting and scratching, there's definitely something a problem that we did not take care of. But I'm thinking by 16 or 17, this will be nipped in the bud. So give yourself some grace. They're 2 and 3. They've not been alive very long. They're trying to figure out this whole life thing. So you're not a failure when you have a kid that throws a fit. And At Liberty Baptist Church, you will never be looked down on when your kid throws a fit. It happens. We have tons of kids here. It happens. We listen and we don't judge. Have you seen that new trend? That's how it is for real at Liberty Baptist Church. We watch and we don't judge. We listen and we don't judge. We hear the child's cries and we don't judge. That's really what it's like here. So, but that being said, if your child is just having meltdown after meltdown, maybe something is going on in your life that you need to scale back on. Maybe you have too much. Maybe you're overwhelming them. I know for Hannah, when she gets overwhelmed, it comes out in the form of a meltdown. And so yesterday being Sunday, maybe he's just Micaiah's overwhelmed today and lots of big feelings going on, so get on a schedule. I know church days, that's why Mondays are so tough. Mondays and Thursdays are the toughest days in my home because of church, and they're up later. The babies are up later than they normally are. Normally during the weekdays, they go to bed by 8:30 at the latest. So they're on a good sleep cycle. You know how I am about little kids being on a sleep cycle. I've always been very strong advocate of getting your kids on a sleep schedule. So they're in bed by 8:30 at the latest. But get on a schedule. For me, I get overwhelmed if I don't have my evenings with my husband. And so I've always made it a point. I need that time with my husband so that the babies, and they need sleep. They need a lot of sleep for their growing brains, everything going on. So they're in bed by 8 or 8:30. Figure out your priorities in your home. What are the priorities in your home? This is what the priorities are in the McMurtry home. Number one, church, obviously. We're there whenever the doors are open. It's just not an option to miss unless you're like puking your guts out or something, or running a fever. Obviously we don't want to give sicknesses to any of the other families. Thankfully, fingers crossed, we've been extremely healthy this winter. It's kind of weird. Hopefully it's not just a fluke. Hopefully it keeps going because we have lots of holiday plans, but our priority is obviously church is one of the biggest ones. School is one of the biggest ones for us. So school needs to happen. And sometimes that's going to be a little bit harder to make happen than other days. And some days it might be where if everything in your home is breaking down, school has to take a back seat. And that's the beauty of homeschooling. When life happens to a big degree, you can scale back and make up other times. I have found that even with taking a day off here or there, my kids are always done by April with their schoolwork, and they have a set amount of schoolwork. That's why I use a curriculum too, so I can keep track of how they're doing, what they're doing, how much they have left to do. But they have 12 booklets in each subject that they have to finish. And then when they're done, they're done. So that's kind of motivating in and of itself. Even with Chloe, my senior, once she's done with all of her senior subjects, she's done. So that might motivate her to work ahead. And as long as she's doing well in her work, passing her test, she has a basic knowledge. She's not just like breezing through, just writing in answers, random answers. As long as she's actually learning this stuff, I'm fine with her working ahead. So, so that's a huge priority for us. Keeping the house clean is kind of a big priority for us. So we'll do a big clean where everyone just pitches in a few minutes and we get everything cleaned up. But just recognize your kids' future. It's easy to be like, oh, I'll put it off. I'll put school off another day because we have time. Okay, but time flies when you have kids. And that's why for us, like school happens, unless there's some catastrophic event, like a huge storm knocking out our electricity, or everything in the house is breaking down, or we get into a car wreck, or, there's, I don't know what else it would be. So like catastrophic things, obviously we'll put it on pause for a second, but overall school happens every day. Every weekday in our homeschool is going to happen, because I do recognize that because I have chosen to be in charge of my kids' schooling, I need to take that seriously. And it is going to affect every area of their life. They need to know how to read and write and have basic understanding of grammar and word comprehension, because it's going to affect if they want to go into a trade. It's going to affect what kind of jobs they get in the future. And I'm sorry, I don't want my boys working at McDonald's for the rest of their life. They're not going to be able to support a family off of that. My boys, they do want to have families and they want their wife to be the ones raising their kids. So because of that, they need to be able to make a good living that's going to support them being the sole breadwinner, and they're going to be bringing in all the income to support their wife and their kids. So you need to take that seriously. with your kids. Make sure that they learn how to read. Make sure that they know how to do math. Make sure that they are capable of writing a paper and passing tests. And that's a big, big priority for me. Um, Ask your husband to let you know your weak areas. Believe me, he knows. And he lives with you. And up until the last 5 years, I would get very offended when my husband would point out a weak area in my life, or maybe tell me, you kind of need to scale back in this area because it's overwhelming you and it's coming out in anger or frustration or just not even, I don't want to cook. Let's order pizza for the 10th time in a month. You know, Up until about 5 years ago, he he can tell me if he sees a weak area now, and I just am like, you're probably right. I can tell him if I see a weak area and he's like, okay, point taken. Now I don't keep nagging about it. I make an observation and I just let it go. He's the same with me. He'll make an observation, let it go. Just learn to be thick skinned. Why can our husband not tell us what's a weak area in our life? Why can't we tell our husbands what's a weak area in our life? We both know each other the best out of anyone else in the world. I live with him. He lives with me. I know his strong points. He knows my strong points. I know his weak points. He knows my weak points. So just stop being so easily offended. Ask him. Ask him, what is an area that I can improve in? You're the manager of your home, but your husband is the overseer and he lives there and he wants his kids to turn out too. And I'm telling you, mamas, the majority of how a kid turns out lies on the mama. Let's just be honest. The moms are the ones there with them all the time, especially if my audience, okay, now there are exceptions, but for my audience, the ones that listen to Gently Led Sisters, we are the stay-at-home moms. We are the ones in charge of our kids' schooling. We are the ones training our children, giving them biblical truths. Dad is reinforcing that when he gets home at night, but we are the ones. So the majority of how a kid turns out is a lot on us, and we have to really take that seriously. So get rid of the distractions if you need to. That includes, mine's plugged in, that includes your phone. Get rid of your phone. Put it up, put on, do not disturb. Well, this might not work if you have a husband like mine who's trying to text you and needs something and then he is not happy if you don't answer. So maybe that won't work. Put it on vibrate and put it up. And for me, most of the time I wear my watch. I'm not today, but most of the time I wear my watch. And if my husband is calling, I always have my phone on vibrate. The sound's never on. So I will put my phone up in a different area of the house. And if he does try to call me, it'll come through on my watch and then I can answer it. So that's what I do. But definitely give yourself, what I used to do when I was younger is, we didn't really have smartphones, but we had the internet. So I would not go on the internet until all my chores, and this was like before kids or when I had a little kid. I would not go on the internet until like nap time. And then when I would put my kid down for a nap, then I would give myself an hour or so on the internet and then I would go off. Because as moms, you know how easy it is to get sucked into scrolling, watching reels. It's even more so now with a smartphone than it was when I had to get on the computer and go on the internet. So put your phone up, get rid of the distractions. If something is becoming too much, some extracurricular activity, get rid of it. It's not worth stress and chaos in your life. Talk with your kids about your goals. Definitely have them be included. They're part of the family. They need to know, your goals for your family, what you want it to look like, your expectations, enlist their help with chores. One thing I used to do when my kids were younger, and I think I might go back to this, and because my older kids were talking about this the other day, you'll find that when you get a bunch of older kids and then you have younger kids, you kind of start putting a lot of the burden on the older kids, but the younger kids still need to learn to help out too. And I'm kind of noticing this as a weak area. My younger kids do have chores, but I feel like they complain a lot more than my older kids did. So I need to crack down on this. But one thing that we used to do, I'd have a little chart with names on it. And every kid would have a room that they were in charge of cleaning for the day. So like Abby would have the living room, Jason would have the kitchen, Tommy would have the schoolroom, and we would rotate it. And I would put who's ever I would put the list up in each room. Like I would tape it to the wall, and then they would see, okay, for the entire week, like this week, December 16th through 20th, whatever those days are, this is my room. So we would go through and we would have like a couple times a day cleanups when I had little kids. So we would clean up. It would be clean in the morning because I would always make sure it was clean at night when we went to bed. So we would clean up right after lunch, right before nap time, and then we would clean up before dad came home, and then I would do a final clean before. Normally at the end of the day, I kind of would clean after I put them to bed. I'd go through and clean up the whole house and make sure it was clean. But that really, it gave them personal responsibility because they were in charge of a room, but then it also rotated them. So like obviously the one with the kitchen would have a little bit more work because that was the dishes and everything. But the living room would include picking everything up, vacuuming, not really dusting. I used to do that once a week on Saturdays. I've kind of fallen out of that. I feel like I've let a lot of things slide as far as like being nitty gritty about it, since my life got so busy and I have older kids. But when I was younger, that was the um, basic rotation. So are there any clear signs in kids that you need to take a second look at yourself? I get it that we have mom guilt and feel like a failure, but what are some red flags that things are out of order? Um, if the child is clearly crying out for you to pay more attention to them, I definitely think is something. I think as moms, we can get so wrapped up into our lives of getting everything done and get the cooking done and get the cleaning done, where we might just need to take some time and really reconnect with a child. If they're, you never spend time with me, if they're saying things like that. Obviously, kids can be dramatic, but if it's a common theme that's coming up over and over and over again, we might need to reassess and maybe carve a little time out of each day to just reconnect with that kid, whether it's sitting and reading a book with them before bed, whether it's praying with them, whether it's cuddling with them. I think if there's a current thing being said over and over again, it might be your kid crying out for help. Um, I'm telling you, the biggest thing with raising kids is if you teach them to love the Lord and you teach them to love you, a lot of things are going to fall into place. As they get older, they're going to have that desire in them to please you and not hurt you. When you see a kid who's very vindictive towards their parents, doesn't care about hurting their parents, doesn't this goes for teenagers, younger kids, they just have no compassion or empathy for their parents, something is very broken. I think most kids want to please their parents. And if they don't, there's probably been a severe lack of love, a severe lack of caring or compassion on the parent's part. Because it shows that there's a lot of bitterness there and a lot of hatred. Maybe there were severe wrongs done to that child by the parent, whether that came to abuse of the tongue, because us as moms, we do control a lot of how our kid thinks about themselves through our tongue. We can build our kid up or we can tear our kid down. Also, parents who have been too excessive with physical discipline, you have to really watch that. It should not take marathon sessions of physically correcting your child. It should be a swat here, a swat there, and that the kid straightens up. And if you feel like you are just like, I need to break the will of my child and I'm going to keep going until this happens, you're going into territory that could be considered abuse. And a lot of times by law, it is considered abuse. And you have to be really careful. You don't let yourself get to that point where you're just so determined to show them who's boss, I'm going to win, because you're going to cause more damage in the long run. It's not about getting your child to just submit to you and do your every will. It's about raising children who care about what God thinks, who care about what you think, who know, that there are consequences. If I break the law, if I speed, if I drink and then go driving, I'm going to get arrested and thrown into prison. They need to understand there's consequences for sin. But it shouldn't be your goal to just show them who's boss and I'm going to thump my chest and by golly, look at my kids. They're all like little robots that do. When I say jump, they ask how high and they do it, no matter if it's an icy cold water or not. You have to be really careful about that. So, yeah, love your kids, teach your kids to love God and you, and you're going to be fine. But But yeah, enlist their help with the chores, have morning chores, after lunch chores, and evening chores, rotate kitchen duty days because no kid likes kitchen duty. And that's the hardest thing. And I'm going to say this go for boys too. Don't just put all of the kitchen duty on your girls. And that might be unpopular, but I'm sorry. My boys washed dishes up until they were like 16, 17, and they got jobs where they weren't at home like ever. So obviously I couldn't just let the dishes sit there. And when it came to my boys having secular jobs, that's kind of when a lot of the chores around the home ceased, except for the outside chores. They've always helped their dad outside. But when they became adults, 18, 19, I didn't really expect that of them anymore. They're not really even like Jason still lives at home while he's getting his house ready, but he pretty much sleeps there. And that's like it. He sleeps there and then he's gone. So he's not even contributing to any of the mess in the home. And he's an adult now, so it's not a big deal. But I made my boys wash dishes, not so much cook, but they can learn to clean too, because there's going to be seasons in their future wife's life where she's going to be sick, she's going to be postpartum, she's going to be heavily pregnant, and he doesn't need to be looking at things around the house as only woman's chores. Most bad marriages have that mindset. A man should be willing to help out when his wife needs it. Obviously, we're home all day, so women, don't expect your husband to work a full day of work and then come and clean up the mess while you've been sitting watching Bonbons and the latest show of As the World Turns. Okay, so don't expect that. Definitely take your job seriously, but obviously you're going to have days when you're sick. You're going to have days when you just had a baby. And if your husband just sees, well, those are women's chores and doesn't want to help out, then shame on him. But teach them to cook, clean, how to do a job right, because if you do it when they're young, when they're old, it's going to be a lot easier. Remember why we do what we do. It's for the future generations. It's for our children. We didn't become a stay-at-home mom just so we could turn our kids over to the world as soon as they turn 18. We didn't become a stay-at-home mom so our Christian kids could act just like the world and do drugs and drink and fornicate and get tattoos and talk like the world and look like the world and dress like the world. We're not doing this to turn out kids like that. We're doing this to turn out different kids. We're doing this to turn out godly kids. We're doing this to turn out kids that go against the world's culture and against the mainstream of the world. We're doing this to turn out kids who will raise their kids in church, who will serve in church, who will, continue on this way of life. This is why we're doing this. So it's for the future generations. Your family is your priority. Your family is your ministry. Okay. If I start turning out kids who hate me, turning out kids who want to leave as soon as they turn 18, I'm going to put Gently Led Sisters on hold. I'm going to put any outside activities on hold, and I'm going to focus on my children, and I'm going to reevaluate, and I'm going to say, why is this happening? What do I need to change? Because for me, my kids are my ministry. My family is my ministry. They are number one. Number one. My husband, top priority. Number one in this world, my husband. My kids, right after him. God, my husband, my kids. That's how it goes in my life. And if something is off kilter and it's not working, I'm going to reassess and figure out what's broken. Okay. So your entire lifestyle is a series of teaching lessons. I have no idea, Julia, if that show is still, I just remember my grandma watching it. So that's why I said it. But yeah, your entire lifestyle is a series of teaching lessons. It's not like, okay, if you do this, you're going to raise good kids. No, your entire life, as my kids call it, life lessons with mom. Everything is a life lesson with mom. The way I talk is a life lesson to them. The way I talk about others is a life lesson to them. The way I go to church is a life lesson to them. The way my attitude is at church is a life lesson to them. The way I treat others is a life lesson to them. If I am cussing in the home, so will they, and probably more than I do. If I am talking bad about others in the home, so will they. If I am a bully, they will be as well. Every bit of who you are as a person comes out in your kids. Every bit of it. And our kids tend to take things further than we would. So just remember that when raising kids. If you want to raise kind kids, be kind. If you want to raise compassionate kids, be compassionate. If you want to raise godly kids, be godly. It does not matter what I say behind this microphone of Gently Led Sisters. If I am not living it at my home, it's not going to come out in my kids. I can say blah, 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 blah words. I can say words, but what am I living? That is the most important thing. Your lifestyle is what is produced in your children. Your children are a direct result of what went on in your home. So I can say lots of flowery words and sound like I have it all together, which I don't, and act like I know it all, which I don't. But it's going to be evident in how my family turns out. So, and just remember that before you take anyone's advice on how to raise children or how to run the home, look at their fruit, and it's going to be their children. What do their children say about them? Okay. What do their children say about them? There's your answer if they're real or not, right there. Keep the main thing in your home. Remember that every parent messes up. Only you can love your kids the way they need to be loved. Only you. God gave your kids to you for a reason. I can't love Julia's kids, even though I do. I love Julia's kids, but I can't love them the way she can. I can't love Nicole's kids, which I love Nicole's kids. I can't love them the way she can. Erica's kids, Amanda's kids, Rachel's kids, all of Sarah's kids. I love all of them, but I will never have the love for them that their moms do. So we are the ones that are in charge of loving our kids the best that we can. Have the correct balance of love and correction. And there is a balance there. Life is all about balance. Life is all about this balancing act, and have the correct balance. You have to have love, but you also have to have correction. If you have too much correction without the love, you're going to raise angry, bitter kids. If you have too much love without the correction, you're going to raise entitled, spoiled brats. That's just how it is. Correction should definitely phase out by a certain time in the teen years. If you still have to use physical correction on your 17-year-old, something's wrong. If you have to still use physical correction on your 14-year-old, something's wrong. By the time they're 13 or 14, 12, that should be phased out. They should have the desire in them by that point to not disappoint the Lord and not disappoint you, to bring pleasure to the Lord and to bring pleasure to you. That should be there by that time. You will always be available to guide, but you can guide with your eye. And there is a way, or the snap of your fingers, which my adult kids still look when I do that. Everyone at church knows what I'm talking about. You should be able to guide them when they're older by just snapping and they should know, oh, mom is not pleased. We better change the way we're doing things. Teach them to love God and love you, and they're going to be okay. I think we put too much pressure and too much guilt on us. Like, if I don't do this, like if my kids don't take calculus, I'm a failure as a mom. If my kids don't do X, Y, and Z, I'm a failure as a mom. Not necessarily. Like, we've talked with our oldest kids before about this, and we've been like, we're not perfect. And my oldest has literally told me, like, Mom, I can't even think of an area where you messed up. He's told us that, but we did. We have messed up. We were too hard when we shouldn't have been so hard. We were maybe too soft when we should have been a little bit harder, but our kids know that we love the Lord first and foremost. It's very real to us. We live it at church. We live it at home. They know that we love them. A night does not go by where I do not tell my kids I love them, give them a hug, put them to bed. They know I love them, and we say it often to each other. And so, like, all those little trivial, petty things, it'll be okay. If your kids know that you love them and you love the Lord, it'll be okay. So if you have a bad day, all right, if you just feel like a complete failure, first off, number one, stay calm. We all have bad days. It's a lot easier said than done. Readjust the day if you can. Okay, so here are some tips to readjust the day. Correct as needed, obviously. Give naps or take naps. Declare a big nap time, and we're all laying down. We all need a break. Tell dad that you need a break. A drive for me solves so much sometimes. A coffee for me solves so much sometimes. Sometimes I just need like a half-hour drive into town, get a coffee, just breathe, listen to some Christmas music or listen to some college music, Heartland, Hiles Anderson, Golden State. Listen to some of that music when I'm driving to town. And it just solves so much. I have a whole different outlook when I pull back into that driveway. Don't compare your life to someone else's. Social media is fake. What works for my family might not work for your family. What works for your family might not work for my family. And it's not a comparison game here. It's not a contest. Remember that tomorrow is fresh with no mistakes. We can start over tomorrow and we can do this again. No need to lay in bed thinking about what you should have done. I know we all do it. Tomorrow is fresh with no mistakes. Our bad days show us our need for a savior. Our bad moments show us that we can do nothing on our own. Maybe we're getting a little too prideful in our abilities, and God comes along and says, you still need me. So our bad moments show us that we can do nothing on our own. Put on some music, some good music, like put on some of that Golden State music, put on some of that Hyles Anderson music, put on some good old Christmas music, rocking around the Christmas tree, and just have a dance party with your kids. You'll feel silly, but they'll love it, especially the babies. If you are in a warm climate in this, or this is happening in summer, I've heard try two things when you're having really bad: water or outside activities. I've often found that sometimes just the baby's taking a bath, it like makes everything better. Kids love water. They love going outside. So try that. Try water or outside activities for the kids. Sit down and make popcorn and watch a movie. Just say, whatever. You know what? The dishes can wait right now. School can wait right now. We're going to like readjust this day. Cuddle with the one having a bad day. Oftentimes, when I have a child that's just letting her intrusive thoughts win, she just needs to be by my side, or I need to take time to cuddle with her. Maybe she needs some attention. So oftentimes if I have one that's just really feeling it, I make them stay with me. So I'm like, come on, you're my buddy today. You're going to be in the kitchen with me while I cook. You're going to be hanging out with me when I'm in my room doing laundry. You're my buddy today. And that seems to help. Maybe they just need that one-on-one time with mom. I don't know. Put them to bed early. Okay. And then after you get them to bed early, take a hot bath, light some candles, make some hot tea, put on some soothing classical music, cuddle with your husband, tell him, I just need a hug right now. Order a pizza for supper. I wouldn't make this like a week. Well, hey, if you like to do it a weekly thing, that's not bad either. But sometimes we just need a break from cooking, especially when we're the ones doing all the cooking. It's not horrible to order a pizza and say, this has been a bad day. We're getting takeout. Realize that it's a bad day, not a bad life. I tell myself that often. I'll be like, it's just a bad day. It's just a bad day. It's just a bad day. Tomorrow is fresh with no mistakes in it. It's just a bad day. It's a bad day, not a bad life. So my final thoughts: you alone are the mom that your kids need. Assess what is bringing chaos into your life. Eliminate extra activities if needed. If something isn't working, fix it. Okay. If you know that you've done everything you can, then just come to the conclusion that it's a bad day, not a bad life. We all have bad days. Oh, well, shrug your shoulders, go to bed. We'll try again tomorrow. Join a gym, book a massage, go to the chiropractor. If you're in pain, get help. If I have made it, my life overall has gotten much, much better since I have put my health. I have made my health a priority because I deal with, sometimes I feel pretty good right now, actually, but I oftentimes deal with daily back pain because of my herniated discs. So if I don't make regular chiropractor visits or schedule them, I pay for it. So I have realized that I can either live my life in pain all the time and not spend the money in chiropractor because we pay for it out of pocket, or I can make that priority in our budget, a priority with my time, and book the chiropractor appointments, go regularly. Regularly for me is like every 3 weeks. That keeps me at a very livable pain tolerance. Some days I have to just ice it all day. I can't do much. But overall, if I keep those regular chiropractor appointments, I'm okay. So that has to be a priority in my life. So if you are in pain, get help. It's not fun living with pain all the time and, et cetera. So have a bestie you can vent to. And I do. I have several. Oftentimes our husbands are fixers. And this might not work for everyone, but this works for my husband and I. oftentimes husbands are fixers and they want to find a solution. Oftentimes I just want to vent. And so it's a lot better for me to have another mom because my husband, okay, guys, men don't understand. Men will never understand the burdens of motherhood and what we go through. Don't expect preachers to get it. And I find it quite hilarious when preachers are like trying to give all this advice to moms. And I'm thinking, be quiet. You have no idea. Like, my husband doesn't even try. He leaves it to me. That's why I think podcasts like this are important, because my husband's not going to go and try to give women advice when it comes to postpartum and nursing and running the home. He's never done it. So he thinks it's silly, and I think it's silly when preachers try to give like even constructive criticism to women when it comes to running the home. Let your wives do it. Like, why are you so afraid of your wife having a voice when it comes to this? Let your wife instruct. The Bible says it, literally says for the older women to teach the younger women. But yet some preachers are just, they're so full of themselves. They think they can help everyone, even though they've never born a child or given birth or had postpartum or dealt with hormones or estrogen. They're so full of themselves. They think they can tell other women how to deal with that stuff. So yeah, have a mom community. Have a mom community with no judgment. We listen and we don't judge. We see and we don't judge. We hear and we don't judge. Have a mom community with no judgment. Avoid laying the guilt on other moms. I've really tried in our church to keep this judgmental attitude out, and it's great. We don't have it in our church. Because we all are in unique situations in our life. We all have kids that are different ages. We all have different home lives. We're all different, and we're all raising our kids together, and we're all supporting each other in this. So I want to know if my kid's doing something. I'll tell the other moms if their kid's doing something. And there's no judgment. It's just like, hey, you might want to know this, so that we can fix it, not because we're judging, right? So avoid laying the guilt on other moms. We all have so much guilt already that we're processing every night when we go to bed. We're already processing. The last thing we need is another mom to come over and be like, your kid is doing this and I cannot believe they are. That's the last thing we need. So I've always tried to avoid laying the guilt on other moms. If you're having a hard time sleeping because all these thoughts are running through your head, these are some things I do to help me. I take a bath before bed, so I'm very warm, especially in Illinois. Hot baths are very important. So I'll tell the kids, and in our house, hot water goes fast. So I'll tell the kids, leave some hot water for me because I know I desperately need it. Take a hot bath before bed. I'll use magnesium flakes. That really helps relax my body. It helps with back pain, aches, anything like that. I am not above taking melatonin if I really need it. Taking melatonin, I'll drink chamomile tea, have a good bedtime routine, do Bible reading before bed, and avoid letting your thoughts take over. So basically bring your thoughts into subjection. Now, for me, if I'm going through a stressful time, that tends to come out in my dreams. I hate it when that happens. A lot of times unresolved conflict will come through in my dreams. So then I realize I need to resolve it or, do something about it. But, it's really good to have a good solid bedtime routine so that you can get into the right frame of mind before going to bed. And that's kind of what I do because sleep is very important to me. I've found that if I don't get enough sleep, my emotions rise to the surface more often. For me, that's not emotions of crying, that's emotions of anger. That's how my emotion comes out. So I have to be very careful that, number one, I stay on top of my back health, because I did have about a year and a half ago, I had a time of about 6 to 8 months where I did not go to a chiropractor and I paid for it. And that really taught me that I have to stay on top of this because it was affecting day-to-day activities, day-to-day life. So since then I have gone, every 3 weeks or monthly, I go and I keep that in check, and it keeps me in line most of the time. I still deal with some days where the pain's a little more intense than others. So that's where I know maybe I'm overdoing it, or maybe I'm not focusing on my back like I need to. So yeah, I've learned that that's important in my life. It might be something else for you. It might be you're getting migraines, you need it checked out. You're having hormone problems and you need to go to your midwife and see what's going on. You need to get on herbal supplements. I know Nicole and Sarah are both on my case about taking my supplements like I should, because I'm going into perimenopause now at this time of my life, and my hormones are a little out of whack and weird things are kind of happening. So, Nicole is a gold mine. I'm so glad she goes to my church, and she is my friend. She is a gold mine when it comes to natural. She stays on top of it, like researching, listening to podcasts, and then I just go to her with my questions. So she has me on some different things right now that are actually helping. I feel like they're helping. Chaseberry. Nicole, if you're still listening, is it Shavanti or something? You're still listening. What's that weird thing that you just put me on? It came in I started taking it yesterday. I'm really bad about staying on top of it. So Sarah suggested that I order a pill organizer where I can put all of my pills in each day, and it's a magnet and it goes on the fridge. And then I just have to slide it out, take the pills for the day, slide it back in. So every day has its own slot where they're already rearranged. For me, that's something that I need to do. Like, I need to put that into practice as far as like organization. For me, organization is big. And I feel like my life is chaos if like I'm forgetting everything. So in order to stay on top of things, I have to do little things like that to help me. Shishandra berry. That's it. We'll see if it helps. So I'm on that. I'm on the liver pills that she made for me because she thinks my liver needs help. And I'm on chaseberry. I think vitamin E. Was it vitamin E? I don't know. I'm trying to help this thing on my neck, my thyroid. I have thyroid issues. So I'm trying to do that naturally, because they said the only thing that they can do at this point is take out the rest of my thyroid. And I really don't want to be on Synthroid for the rest of my life. I kind of like having, my left side is already gone. It's only my right side I have left. And as you can see it a little bit right here. But it's not becoming remarkably big. So I'm keeping it at bay, and I would really like to continue. So health is important. Staying on top of your stuff is important, and finding things that help, like finding little organizational tools that will help you stay on top of things, is important for me, for my type A personality. So, otherwise it just doesn't happen. So I have to have these little steps in place in order to make things happen. So if you are having a hard time getting motivated, staying on top of things, find what works for you, whether that's alarms on your phone, whether that's a scheduling app on your phone, whether that's giving yourself time limits. Okay, I'm only going to spend this much time on my phone. I'm only going to do it when I have this many chores done. Find what works for you. And for me, it needs to be structured. So that's what works for me. Hopefully something I said helped today. Those are all tips that have helped me when I have felt completely overwhelmed with motherhood and thinking I'm just the worst mother ever. These are all things that have helped me. But at the end of the day, just realize you are the mom that your kids need. God gave you your kids for a reason, and you alone are the one that can love them the most. Out of anyone in this world, you are the one that can love them the most. No one else can love them like you can love them. So I hope you all have a good week. I'm going to have, oh wait, I have to do a giveaway. Okay, here we go. Giveaway. So these are for $10 gift cards. Okay. I'm trying to think of what I can ask. So whoever answers first is going to get the gift card. I'm going to try to do it off of something. All right. This can just be a good answer, I guess. Okay. Why are we doing what we do as a stay-at-home mom? That is the first question for the giveaway. Why are we doing what we are doing as a stay-at-home mom? Or what is your reason? Just basically whoever answers first. What is your answer for doing why you are doing what you're doing as a mom? And I will wait until someone answers. This is number one question. So let me write this down here. Yes, that would be the main reason for sure, for the glory of God. For me personally, it's because I want my kids to continue on in this lifestyle, right? I want my kids to continue on. Nicole, you're easy because I can just give you one. Nicole's easy. Okay. Number 2, Nicole won that one. So you get a $10 gift card, and I'm assuming you're probably going to want it to Dunkin'. is what I'm assuming. Okay. And also I wanted to mention, I'm giving away 3 $10 gift cards, but 2 of them were donated by my longtime listener, Grace. So thank you for that. Every year she has donated money towards coffee gift cards. So I'm very thankful for her. Thank you for watching. Thank you for donating every year. So yes, Angie, that is the other one. Okay, get ready to, but Nicole already answered it. Well, actually, maybe I could just give them away this way. Okay, Angie, you get the second one. I'm going to give it to you. So we only have one left because yes, that is like my main reason. Obviously, to bring glory to God. That's always my reason in anything I do. Okay, so number 3 gift card. Okay, so Nicole has one, Angie has one as well. So number 3 gift card, I'm going to give it away. Let's see. Okay, I gave like 21 things to help if you have a bad day. What was one of those things? It has to be specific to the 21 things that I gave. 21 tips. 21 tips. Yes, it is my ministry too, Rachel. You are correct, but we're on to a different question now. Sorry. Answer this question, Rachel, really quick because you're on. So answer this question really quick. Okay, so these are 21 things I gave. If you have a bad day near the end, here were some tips. Yes, I'll give it to you. You typed very fast. Yes, Rachel too. There we go. Okay, so, oh man. Okay, so Rachel said go for a drive. That was definitely, I didn't say shower. I said a hot bath. You kind of both answered the same thing. I'm just going to give, yeah, it, yeah, I'm going to give it to both of you. I'm going to give Rachel one. And I'm going to give, well, the other one's actually Rachel McVeigh too. So both Rachels. I'm going to give both of you. I'm going to give away 4 because I'm feeling generous because it's Christmas. Why not? Okay. So Rachel McVeigh, I think I have your address. Angie Thrasher, I don't think I have your address, your email address. I'm thinking, I don't know if you've ever won anything before. Angie, please email me your email address so I can send you one and tell me if you want Starbucks or Dunkin'. I know for Nicole, she's going to want Dunkin'. Rachel, no, I'm going to give it to you, Rachel, because you like coffee just as much as me. So Rachel, do you want Starbucks or Dunkin'? I will get those this week and get them to you guys. So Nicole, she's going to want Dunkin'. Know her. Angie, tell me if you want Dunkin' or Starbucks and send it to my email at gentlyledsisters@gmail.com. Rachel, I think I have your email. Rachel McVeigh. I think I have your email, but send me an email telling me at gentlyledsisters@gmail.com if you want Starbucks or Dunkin'. Okay. So 'tis the season to be generous. We all get coffee. Everyone is so generous with me. Ladies, thank you for watching. Thank you for hanging with me this year. It's been an interesting year, but next year on to bigger and better things. I've got a son getting married next year. My daughter is in a relationship that's getting, we'll see what happens with that. So Chloe graduates high school and lots of exciting things happening at the McMurtry home. All good things, all good things. Our church is growing. It's exciting around here. All good things. God is doing great things. It's been an interesting year, but a good year. Next year is going to be even better. So I'm excited for who I will have on next year. So thank you for hanging with me. Rachel, I had a feeling, Rachel Hauser, that you would pick that one. Or it can be like Scooters or 7 Brew too, whatever. So, all right, guys. All right, ladies. Thanks for joining me. Have a great week. We will be back next week. I might be doing one with Amanda about where to go for resources when you've started out, like not knowing anything about being a wife, being a homemaker. I need to check back with her, but maybe next Monday. And that'll be our last one before the New Year's. I probably will have to take New Year's week off because I will be traveling that Monday to my bestie's house. But if I don't, I could possibly do one and premiere it. We'll see what happens. So have a great week and we will see you guys next week.